Truth be told, what's true for you, really? Without you dancing with denial. What's true for you in this moment? Like, not what you've been taught, not what you've been conditioned to believe, not anything that's tied to identities that are meant to expire. I'm talking about in this moment, what's true for you? Coming from someone who has always been the master of deflecting and being in the seat of the observer to everybody else's story, to having people talk about themselves to the point where there was never any time to get to my truth that I would hide behind. You know, I've definitely been called to address certain things, to put a microscope to certain things, and just find yourself in the story. Maybe something will resonate. And, you know, something that I want to mention as well with this truth of, you know, who we are today, especially if you're on this healing journey and you are just so eager to, like we all are, to quantum leap into the new, that it's like throw that old stuff away, throw that old version away, when things may creep up from that version to try to still anchor us because it's not fully being seen. Like, have you really acknowledged and have you really mourned those previous aspects of yourself that was needed to be who you are today? Without judgment, but just a raw, evolved eye, like a bird's eye view to you. I've been in right now, because this space of the void where it feels so empty, because there's so much that is leaving that is no longer who I am, but the new hasn't necessarily materialized. And so that space, I find myself looking to feel, and the things that I might go to reach for to feel that, thinking that it'll bring temporary comfort, which it may temporarily, but all in all, I just end up feeling like shit afterwards, you know, in one way or another. It's aspects of who I was previously. Like, just let me just tell you a little story about a version of me that moved to Hotlanta, Black Hollywood, you know, all the things, built up this identity, behind the glitz and the glam, and, you know, celebrated makeup artists, dibbled and dabbled with celebrities, and, you know, just the elites, and rubbing shoulders with this and that, you know, the lifestyle that Atlanta has to offer. If you know, you know. Work featured on magazines, and, you know, being the muse for myself, and ultimately cultivating extensions of my brand, one being a podcast, Beauty and Bourbon. Literally, bourbon used to run in my veins. Like, it was just so, it just felt like home. I mean, being from Kentucky, you know, natural. And so literally as of last year, it got to the point where I just all of a sudden didn't even have a taste for it. Like, it was so crazy. And when I think about that, because even now, if I try to like go for having a drink, I'm not saying I don't drink at all, but I don't drink nearly. I mean, it's very sporadic. And when I do, my body, it's like it rejects it. I don't even feel the same. And it makes me question, like, is this something I'm reaching for because I genuinely enjoy it? Or is it just tied to a version that is still has residue on me that I just can't shake? Maybe I didn't acknowledge it. To think that it was so earth-shattering that identity came crumbling down because God knew better. Just think, if I still held on to that, when now I don't even have the taste for bourbon. And how many times have there been people, because they didn't want to, you know, be questioned about how it may look if they turn their back on something that they literally had created for themselves. A lot of us create these whole things for ourselves. But what is it built on? A lot of times it may not be a solid foundation of where we're meant to go or who ultimately we're meant to be. And, you know, when I think about my 13-year-old self and how that glam girl was her wildest dreams, because she, the big one, you know what I'm saying, hiding behind her snacks and scared of her own shadow and scared of her own voice, she would have never imagined who I just became. But it was all surface all along, because what I remember of that version that I left behind, and so much noise of just people pulling on my energy and just trying to get access to what I may have had access to, and, you know, people banking on your success in one way or another because it may serve them in one way or another. Meanwhile, you're literally abandoning your own voice. That version was exhausted. And the one thing that haunts me more than ever is those tired eyes. That concealer, it didn't matter how much, it was just undeniable. To now, you know, being thankful for this version who, man, you could have never told me I would leave the house without a beat brow, a lash. Like, it's just so crazy. But through this healing, and once I really got to a point of loving me, even in isolation, even without the validation, and truly embracing like all of my true selves, like it's a beautiful place to be in. And so I'm just here to remind you that it's okay not to ruminate necessarily on the past, but to reflect and just think about how far you've come. Because what you don't want to do is hide the truth from you, because how it may present itself is, you know, showing up in the form of a lesson that you didn't necessarily need to learn. And just embrace who you are now, not even necessarily being so tied to who you know you're destined to be, because this version counts right now. And even if it doesn't look anything like what you thought, like this girl now likes to express her artistry through painting affirmations on her bag. Literally, I had to plug this one because I love it so much. Just be. I got to tell myself all the time, Kia, just be, man. You know, and also finding myself, because it may not look like how it did before, because, man, I used to promote some shit that wasn't aligned so tough all the time. And now, because it looks so different and because nobody was clapping, like, y'all, I wrote a book literally last year, self-published, so proud. Just my truth behind the mirror and the muse, confessions behind the chair transformations. Literally, you know, as a nod to the era that I left behind. And, you know, speaking of the truths of my clients and the mask that I used to paint and the ones that they hid behind that no longer aligned for me. Once I got to the point of not being willing to hide behind my own mask, it didn't feel aligned to paint other people's masks. And so if you feel called, she's on Amazon. You know, I feel that it could bless someone if this resonates with you. But literally not even wanting to even talk about it because no one had anything to say. No one clapped. And it took someone, the one person that I know supported me, my Aunt Una, plugging her, love you, to be like, what's going on with the book? You know, it's not about the book per se, but just, again, like, be proud of what you're accomplishing at this version, even if it doesn't look like what anybody is expecting. He deserves an applause, even if it's just from you, yourself. So truth be told, I invite you to come to the edge of your own truth, because that is what is truly going to set you free.